Alright, hello everybody. Friendly Red here, ready to report on my radar for February of 2025. I think I figured out why January was pretty light on wholly new releases, and that's because all of them decided to chill out in February. This is a seriously stacked month of games here, with huge new releases and long-running, fan-favorite franchises, alongside some original, somewhat smaller, but still very much high-quality releases sprinkled in as well. Before we get into it, I once again want to give the disclaimer that release dates are always subject to change, and what I present here in this video could potentially be out of date by the time it is published. Additionally, there's probably going to be some games I miss out on showing or discussing due to a personal oversight, or perhaps due to it not being known or shown yet. I think I did a pretty good job looking over everything we know that's releasing this month, so with that in mind, let's get into the games of February 2025. Our opening act of February is none other than Rift of the NecroDancer, the latest from developer Brace Yourself Games. To be honest, this one kind of slipped into the back of my mind for quite a while. I remember seeing the announcement for the game back in 2022, but outside of that, I never really saw or heard about this one afterwards. Its release here kind of snuck up on me, but I'm certainly not complaining. The original Crypt of the NecroDancer and the Zelda-flavored spin-off they also made, Cadence of Hyrule, were both wonderfully fun and unique takes on rhythm games, blending real-time action and exploration with the precise timing and execution you'll usually find in other juggernauts of the genre, like Rock Band and Guitar Hero. Not opposed to rhythm games, though it's a genre and style of game that I've never really been able to fully get into, as any of the more traditional games I've tried just don't have a lot of staying power, at least for me. However, the wackier, more experimental rhythm games out there are the ones that really speak to me. Stuff like the Rhythm Heaven games, Rhythm Doctor, and of course the original NecroDancer titles. I guess mixing and matching different gameplay styles and genres with more of a focus on keeping a beat and playing to a rhythm is what I enjoy. And thankfully, the devs seem to be delivering the goods here once again in Rift of the NecroDancer, despite the gameplay change-up. This time around, the focus seems to shift closer to what you would find in something like a Guitar Hero, Rock Band, or Fortnite Festival, but with the staples of the series maintained. Rather than just hitting static notes, you'll be clearing out enemies, who of course can react and attack in different ways, meaning you'll need to be much more aware of timing and playing your strums a bit more carefully than in the usual rhythm game. In addition to the story mode, the game will offer up other ways to play, including a remix mode, daily challenges, and even a track creator, meaning people will be able to make their own custom beat tracks to play with their own music, which is always a great addition to have in any rhythm game. I mentioned it earlier, but I am a big fan of the Rhythm Heaven games, and it seems Brace Yourself Games are as well, as they've also included 5 rhythm mini-games in here that seemingly take heavy inspiration from what you may find in those titles. Personally, I was hoping this would have been more of a focus in the main game, rather than just a side mode, but regardless, what they've shown looks great, and I'll be eager to see how the other ones stack up. Overall, Rift of the NecroDancer is looking to be a great new rhythm game, and yet another hit from Brace Yourself Games. I'm looking forward to its full release, but in the meantime, there is a demo out for the game if you want to give it a go, and try it out yourself before deciding on a purchase. Rift of the NecroDancer will be releasing on Wednesday, February 5th for PC, with a version for console platforms planned for a later date. Following up the rhythmic goodness of Rift of the NecroDancer, Valentine's Day 2025 brings with it 2 visual novel type adventures, though with very different tones and style. I suppose we'll start with the less serious of the two, that being none other than Date Everything. So, this is certainly a strange one. In Date Everything, you'll, well, date everything, or at least have the chance to do so within the confines of your endgame house. In the game, you're mysteriously gifted a pair of special glasses known as Dateviators, which cause all your standard household objects and appliances to come alive, and thus, dateable. A strange premise for a game, no doubt, but it's certainly unique, and even though it seems like a joke, this game has some seriously impressive looking production value to it all. And for one, unlike a lot of other visual novels that are mostly comprised of 2D elements, this game does seem to feature fully 3D environments, along with some light exploration and interactive gameplay alongside it. Additionally, each of the 100 appliances in the game are fully voice acted, with some pretty big names behind them, like Ben Starr, voice of Clive Rosfield in Final Fantasy XVI, Zeno Robinson, voice of Junpei Iori in Persona 3 Reload, Johnny Young Bosch, voice of Nero in Devil May Cry, and Laura Bailey, voice of Mary Jane in the recent Spider-Man games, to name just a few. It's a strange amount of effort and care being put into what would otherwise seem like a silly joke game that gets released for April Fools or something. It's all quite surreal, but it does look to be a quality game, and perhaps one of the finest VNs of the new year, at least so far. Date Everything will be released on Friday, February 14th for PS5, Xbox Series consoles, Nintendo Switch, and PC. On the same day as Date Everything, we have another visual novel adventure releasing, this one being much more serious, personal, and quite honestly, bittersweet. Afterlove EP is its name. Described as a mix of narrative adventure, dating sim, and rhythm game, it's the final project coming to us from the mind of Mohamed Fahmy, creator of Coffee Talk and What Comes After, who sadly passed away in 2022. I've not had any personal experience with those aforementioned titles, but I've at least heard of Coffee Talk, and looking into them both, they are very much loved and well-received narrative adventures that have a focus on exploring themes of connectivity, relationships with others, and the struggles and hardships we face in the day-to-day life. Some heavy subject matters for sure, but it's all handled respectfully and beautifully in all the games Fami had a hand in, and this looks to remain true for Afterlove EP as well. In this new title, you'll step into the shoes of Rama, a young indie musician who's struggling to continue on after the death of his girlfriend, Sinta. Taking place over the course of a month in-game, you'll have to manage Rama's day-to-day life, preparing for an upcoming gig by exploring the city around you, engaging in conversations with your bandmates and friends, and even partaking in some light, rhythm game-like sections when it's time to practice. It looks to be the most ambitious title from Fami yet, and while it's truly unfortunate we lost such a talented individual at such a young age, I'm glad that the developers at Pixelnesia, the indie studio he founded for this game, continued on with the project after his passing, as they pledged to complete the game in his honor. I have no doubts he would be proud of the work they've done here, as this game looks absolutely stunning, and I think it's really cool to see how personable the game is to the developers. Taking place in Jakarta, the capital of Indonesia, and a place some of the developers have lived in the past, alongside having a super cute, manga-esque art style by Indonesian artist Soyatu, and an original soundtrack for the game from Indonesian indie band La Alfalfa. I hope I got that pronunciation right. It seems to be a true celebration of the culture, and I'm excited to get to hear and explore a section of the world that's rarely, if ever, represented in the modern-day gaming scene. I didn't know anything about this game before doing research for this video, but I'm honestly so happy it's been brought to my attention, and I'm very much looking forward to checking it out when it releases. Afterlove EP will be releasing on Friday, February 14th for PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series consoles, Nintendo Switch, and PC. Moving into the end of the month, we've got some of the bigger AAA releases I'm interested in to look at, with the first up to discuss being Avowed, the latest offering from Obsidian. This isn't exactly a game I've been keeping too much of a focus on leading up to its release, but now that it's so close to finally being in our hands, I've been looking at a lot more gameplay and impressions, and I have to say, it's gotten me much more excited for the game than I would have expected. Set within the same world and mythos as another Obsidian joint, Pillars of Eternity, Avowed takes the fantasy CRPG goodness of those games and translates them into a fully 3D, first or third-person action-adventure RPG. Now, I know next to nothing about Pillars of Eternity, but thankfully, it doesn't seem like knowledge or understanding of those games, or anything that occurred in them, will be necessary to enjoy Avowed. Though I'm sure there will be lots of fun references and other little things here and there that fans of those games will enjoy in this one. I think it's neat to see the world of Pillars of Eternity in a whole new perspective, and I'm very much enjoying everything I'm seeing here in Avowed. Fantastical settings with a cool mix of real-world and otherworldly elements, intriguing-looking fantasy characters that are quite different from any other fantasy RPGs I've played, and some flashy combat that seems to offer lots of choice and complexity with regards to how you build your character, and mix and match fighting styles and methods. Like, I can combo flinging spells with a wand in one hand and use a flintlock pistol in my other? Sign me up. I also appreciate the focus on companion characters that journey together with you in your adventure, as it should help the game feel a little less lonely during longer travels or downtime, and make combat encounters even more hectic. Again, I've not really looked into too many specifics, but they seem to play an integral role in the story, and it'll be cool to see how different companions and choices you make affect the overall game. It's probably a bit cliche at this point to say this, but Avowed feels like Obsidian's answer to Skyrim, which, according to the Wikipedia for the game, it was initially pitched as just that. However, I think it's clear to see that while there are some similarities, Avowed is still bringing enough of its own unique flair and ideas to the fantasy action RPG table, and I'm honestly looking forward to it more now than I ever would have expected. Also, the key art for the game is some top-tier stuff, and I would very much appreciate having this plastered on my wall somehow. Oh hey. Avowed will be releasing on Tuesday, February 18th for Xbox Series consoles and PC. Closing out our second month of 2025, we've got the big one. February 28th brings with it the latest banger from Capcom, this time being the next mainline title in the Monster Hunter series, Monster Hunter Wilds. God, this game is going to consume my life. The latest in the Monster Hunter series, Wilds is picking up where World left off, offering up an even bigger, grander experience than what that game was able to deliver back on Xbox One, PS4, and PC all the way back in 2018. World marked a bit of a turning point for the series, bringing it to, at the time, modern-day platforms, and reinventing a lot of the more obtuse and somewhat frustrating elements of the series to deliver a game that longtime fans could still enjoy and appreciate, while also expanding the fanbase and getting more people than ever before to try out a Monster Hunter game, myself included. Needless to say, Capcom delivered, as World has gone on to become their best-selling game ever, and is still enjoyed by thousands to this day. And now though, it's time for the next big jump in the series, and Wilds is bringing with it a lot of great new additions, while still feeling familiar and just as fun as World was. We've got a new method of transportation in the form of the Sacrets, bird-dinosaur hybrids that allow for faster travel across the more open environments of the game, and the ability to equip 2 weapons at once, and swap between them whenever you desire when out on expeditions or hunts. And of course, you have the expected return of many fan-favorite monsters to hunt, as well as plenty of new faces to hunt and turn into sweet new weapons and gear. It may not sound all too crazy, but they're huge additions in the grand scheme of it all, particularly the weapon swapping. That, in tandem with the overall moveset changes and additions that are being made to the different weapon types in the game, should make this the most freeform and experimental game in the series. And from what I played of it in the open beta, it was a blast. It took a bit of getting used to, but the focus on more frictionless hunting and setup is a great change. It's cool to be in these large, open environments with other hunters, going to and from hunts and base camps without ever really having to stop the action. It may not be an open world game, but the way Capcom set everything up to be as seamless as possible is greatly appreciated, and all the little elements you can come across while playing, like the ever-changing weather and roaming fauna and monsters, really make the game world feel alive. This game right here is no doubt the standout release of the month for myself and many others, and I cannot wait to get back into it. Monster Hunter Wilds is not only looking to be yet another in a long line of absolute slam dunks for Capcom, but quite possibly the greatest Monster Hunter game ever made. Monster Hunter Wilds will be releasing on Friday, February 28th for PS5, Xbox Series consoles, and PC. Before we wrap up here, I wanted to spend a little bit of time on some honorable mentions. You may have noticed a distinct lack of discussions on some of the larger games releasing this month, and that's just mainly due to the fact that a lot of the big games releasing in February are part of series or franchises that I've yet to really get acquainted with personally, and thus I won't be playing them myself, at least not now in their release month. Still, I'd be crazy not to mention these in some capacity, as it's an insanely good lineup of titles here. Stuff like Civ 7, the latest in the legendary simulation role-playing franchise, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, follow-up to the very technical and distinct Kickstarter RPG from 2018, Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii, the newest spin-off title in the Like a Dragon series, featuring a playable Goro Majima no less, and Trails Through Daybreak 2, the sequel to last year's Trails Through Daybreak, and the latest game in the long-running Legend of Heroes series from developer Falcom, also responsible for the Yi series of action RPGs. I may not be looking to play any of those games in the foreseeable future, but they're still huge releases that no doubt have tons of fans looking forward to them, and I certainly wish them all the best with their releases, and hope the fans have fun. And hey, this month houses even more gaming goodness outside of just new titles being released, as we're also going to see the next major update for Abiotic Factor, one of the most unique and fun open-world survival craft games I've played in a long time, potentially some cool in-game event or items for the 1-year anniversary of Helldivers 2, and a rumored Nintendo Direct for February, potentially focusing on the last big batch of major first-party titles for the original Switch before the Switch 2 arrives later this year. So yeah, this is an insanely busy and stacked month of games, and it's going to be lots of fun. It needs further reinforcement, but I'm super stoked for all the games that got proper discussions here, and of course I'm still excited about all the other big games releasing too, even if it may be a bit before I get to them myself. And hey, Nintendo Direct or not, I'm sure there will be lots of great announcements, reveals, and more throughout this month as well. 2025 is shaping up to be another legendary year for the gaming industry, and February 2025 is doing a lot of heavy lifting to ensure that. But with all that being said, I think that'll do it for this video. If you made it to the end, I thank you for watching. Your continued viewership and support is greatly appreciated. I hope I was able to entertain and inform, and bring to your attention some games you may not have known about, or perhaps get you interested in playing them yourself. And last, but certainly not least, as always, I'll see you next time.